say how you diagnose and manage anemia in your practice. When do you start iron supplementation in pregnancy? And could you say something about the role of intravenous iron and any contraindication? So there are lots of questions there, but I would suggest that we focus on the first two. And then maybe, Salish, you could talk a little bit about perhaps the role of IV iron as well as we come to you. So let me start again with Corazon.
Diagnosis first. It's a policy and it's a national program to include hemoglobin hematocrit in the first visit. And we also adhere to the WHO for prenatal checkups in order to be able to get the high risk and discriminate high risk from the low risk population. And it has been method of determining anemia, CBC, and commonly hemoglobin hematocrit. Mostly in the rural areas, that's the difficulty, because if there is no access to health, that's a problem. But even in major cities that have no health center, again, the problem of diagnosis is somehow delayed. Iron supplementation is borne out normally after the first trimester, because we see them in the first trimester, diagnose them first, and most of the clinician would start iron supplementation second trimester up, unless of course history of anemia or bleeding makes us suspicious even in the first trimester. Again, the availability of IV iron is a good alternative, especially to people that are more on the culture religion. For example, those that do not accept blood transfusion, like Jehovah's Witness, where there are many in my country, it's a good alternative to have IV iron. And that is, I think, Suresh would be able to expound on this more. So it is an open-ended on iron supplementation. It is initiated as early as the first visit, because we normally see them at the end of the second, or rather on the first trimester towards the end. So it's about a good time to start them until they go through their labor and delivery and lactation. So that's about how iron supplementation would be initiated.
Thank you. Murthy, do you have any views on this?
Yes.
From your pediatric perspective?
Have impact of iron absorption, and we can give IV iron.
Salish?
Yeah, just a point for pregnant women, in addition to what Dr. Corazon said. So IV iron is pretty safe to use and maybe the preferred method of increasing hemoglobin in women whose hemoglobin is between 5 and 8. So they have an option of taking IV iron, or if they are not able to tolerate oral iron, then IV. It's pretty safe. The only thing is that there should be no history of prophylaxis with IV iron, and there should be a facility for emergency management of any reaction that could happen.
So I'm going to jump over a couple of questions and actually combine two questions in the interest of time. So let's look at the common myths and misperceptions that people have, particularly in our region, and how do you address them? And there is a related question in the chat on whether there is this COVID fear from women in terms of appropriate intake of iron or supplements in pregnancy, just because many people just don't want to go and get blood tests done. So could you say something about the issues of COVID-19 and anemia prevention management in your practice also, and also tackle the myths? So maybe I'll start with you this time, Salish. I mean, what are your views on this?
So let me talk about some of the myths for women and some for children. Now, in India, some communities would still think that the menstrual blood loss in adolescence is natural and it does not cause anemia, which is a myth. It does cause anemia because there's loss of blood there. People also believe that if you're eating all right at home, if you're having a sufficient home diet, you will not develop anemia. That again is a myth, because a lot of Indian diet, which is high in phytates and oxalates, actually causes anemia by reducing iron absorption. And in any case, the iron content of meals is less. People are not eating that much non-vegetarian food, not eating enough green vegetables. For pregnant women, many would believe that whatever food she's eating, and in India, women in some households, in some economically backward households, are in the lowest pecking order of food. So whatever is left after the rest of the family has eaten, the woman eats, even if she's pregnant. And that is definitely not sufficient either for her or for the growth of the intrauterine growth of the baby. So that is a myth that needs to be corrected. The family needs to be educated.
What are the myths and misperceptions in your region around anemia, and particularly around, women's compliance?
I guess that's mine because it's women's compliance. There are one of the myth was that it's good to be profusely menstruating. I agree with Lesh, because it's all dirt, it's all toxins, and it's good to have that flushed out in your system. That's one of the myths that we have to debunk. That's for non-pregnant women, and it's a big issue on why we need to debunk that, because anemia is a chronic loss, especially on menstruating women. On pregnant women, the problem is that they think that food is enough, one group. The other is that if they take multivitamins, that will take care of everything, and they don't need to have laboratories because they need to be to go somewhere, and they're afraid of getting COVID from hospitals or from clinics. That's another myth. The other is that they don't like the taste, the metallic taste of iron, the constipation, the getting the dark colored stools, etc. So they need to understand that it's not everything that is in multivitamins already is enough, and they're not even taking it the proper way, or they're taking enough by way of food. We have fortified food supplements, but it's very expensive, so it's very difficult to raise the issue that they're available, because the problem is it's not also available that easily. So we really have education on the part of the nutritionist on the regard of natural food as an agent of choice. So that's my concept on
Thank you.
some misconceptions.
Thanks very much. Let me go back to this question that has also been posed, which is the key micronutrients, other than iron, and you can see a lot of them listed here, including DHA. There is also a question on safety of folic acid dosage. It was also raised in the chat. I'll try and address that if I can. But Salish, what are your views on the key micronutrients in pregnancy and their relevance to pregnancy outcomes?
Yeah, so let me be brief about this. So the micronutrients that are important in pregnancy are the folates, the iron, the B complex vitamins, calcium, magnesium, zinc. And deficiency of any of these can lead to various problems. So B6 deficiency is associated with preeclampsia, carbohydrate intolerance, hyperemesis, neurological disease in infants. Folate deficiency can lead to neural tube damage, orofacial clefts, cardiac anomalies, and so on. Spontaneous abortions also. Vitamin B12 deficiency may cause reduced fetal growth. Vitamin A deficiency impairs the iron status of the woman, and it reduces the resistance to infections. Vitamin C deficiency can cause preeclampsia. Vitamin D deficiency can cause hypocalcemic seizures in the newborn. So all of these micronutrients are important to support a normal pregnancy.
Any of the other panelists have any views on this?
It's very true, and I just like to add on the extensive discussion of Salesh with regard some of the micronutrients, they're actually acting as cofactor in the enzyme DNA synthesis, which is very important in an already compromised anemic patient. So I guess that's one of the concern. And of all the B complexes, it's the B12, which is very much needed to enhance this synthesis and to be able to get as much of the input as to the B complex together with the folic acid and that of DHA. With regards vitamin A, I would just like to add on that because that was already mentioned by Celeste. On vitamin A, although it's fat soluble, they're very good in as far as the function for metabolism, and that's the most likely that they're going to be used. It's important for us to take that into the aspect of multivitamins with micronutrients. So that's all that I need to add in the list that was already explained by Celeste.
May I mention about the minerals, Dr. Bhutta, if you will allow me? Calcium is important as well. Deficiency can cause preeclampsia and intrauterine growth retardation. Magnesium deficiency can cause hematological and territorial damage. Zinc deficiency may limit fetal growth, and even selenium. Low selenium status is associated with recurrent abortion, preeclampsia, and intrauterine growth retardation.
Yes, I think that is very important because it's also affect for the when the mothers is going to delivery and they got the baby with enough micronutrients, so we can prevent of the micronutrients deficiency from the infant. I think it's very, very important for pregnancy.